Good afternoon, and I hope everybody had a enjoyable holiday. So this week we've come to the end of John Green's An Abundance of Catherines, and I will say that I enjoyed this book more than I thought I would because, to be honest, about halfway through, Colin was really starting to get on my nerves a little bit, but he grew on me as the story went on, and so, getting into, I guess, the book overall impressions, I'm glad that Colin had his eureka moment finally. He finished his theorem and found that it worked. He got his first Lindsay, and I hope that their relationship works out. And he finally discovered what he needed to do in order to feel like he matters, which is doing things that don't necessarily have to do with yourself, but doing for others. So I thought that was a good takeaway point. I feel like overall, Green did a really good job of capturing the authentic teenage voice. All the characters that are supposed to be adolescents sound believable. I feel like Green's experience probably maybe helped. I was reading the author interview that was at the end of the book, and he says that he was dumped maybe just about as many times as Colin was, so maybe that's the inspiration behind the book. But he talks about, his experiences as a high school student, and I think a lot of that influenced the way he decided to write Colin's character. And I think that's a good thing. You can always use your own experiences to characterize the people in your stories because that does make it seem more authentic, in my opinion. I have a lot of passages that I underline, things that, stood out to me that I can go back and reference, for my own writing if I want to try a technique. I'm glad that they finally explained why they said fug so much because that was really annoying too. But then after Colin explained the reasoning behind that and the whole thing with the novel, it made sense. And there was one point where Colin and Hassan got into an argument, and I felt this was like a turning point in their friendship because there was a sense of like raw honesty where Hassan was calling him out for being so self absorbed and not looking at, you know, his point of view. Maybe, Colin is lonely and he's upset that he's going through another breakup, but does he ever stop to think about, his friend being there for him when he's going through these breakups only to have him ditch him again when he finds a new Catherine, or the fact that he's lonely too and, doesn't really have anybody to listen to him or, talk to about his problems. So I felt that was kind of maybe like an epiphany for Colin. And maybe that's what helped him to get to the realization at the end of the book that, not being so self absorbed would be beneficial and it would probably do more towards you feeling like you have accomplished something or that you've made a difference, even if it's not anything huge, like you said, telling stories. I like the history that he went into about all the Catherines too. I thought that was interesting, but just telling stories and, you know, how they might affect people, even if it's not anything significant. I think that was a good point, and I think that's part of the beauty of writing stories, being an author. You never know how your words might affect others, and the things they might take away from it and how it might change them for the better. But the world building, everything seemed authentic. I feel like there weren't really any blends. This was more contemporary, so it wasn't like any other elements added to it. But I felt that Green captured the small town atmosphere well, the accents, all the older people that they would interview. I felt, all of that felt real to me. So overall, I enjoyed this. So I wasn't too sure going into it because, like I said, I hadn't really enjoyed a lot of John Green's novels in the past, but I would definitely come back to An Abundance of Catherine's and reread it. So those are those are pretty much my thoughts on the end, and I look forward to listening to all of yours, and I hope you have a good evening. Goodbye.